let's talk about them. They lost yesterday to the Spurs. LeBron noticeably frustrated with the game's officiating. Here he is.
I think we're at a point now where we protect the shooter more than the driver. I mean, there's no reason I should be going to the line 4 times in a game when I drive 100 times to the paint. I'm getting hit and slapped and grabbed and whatnot. So, but we protect the shooter. That's what it's turned into. You know, chicks dig the long ball, and that's what it's about.
I mean, look, we hear players always say, hey, I'm not getting enough calls. But take a look at this number. Sometimes the numbers back these guys up. 6 free throw attempts per game. For a guy like LeBron, who goes to the basket as much as he does, that is his lowest since his rookie season. Mike, you have played with him in multiple cities now. How is he getting treated by the refs?
I've actually always felt this. Now, obviously, the numbers here dictate what he's talking about, but even when he was shooting 7.5, 8 free throws a game, I didn't think he was shooting enough. It's hard to ref him. He's always the one creating contact. He's always going to the hoop. He's physical. He's big. You know, usually people are mad when he gets calls. He doesn't get enough calls in my eyes, but it's tough. I mean, it's just a tough situation for him to be in.
Rachel, you know when LeBron does an interview before he's even done icing?
Yeah, he wants to get that
fired up. He is fired up.
Let me make sure this gets on everyone's Twitter timeline before they go to bed.
It's interesting that he brought this up because there is some changes in the officiating with the way the game is being played. The officials are having to go farther away from the basket than they normally are. They're actually, there's been some discussion of adding a 4th official. I think that's kind of a, you know, just a theory at this point. But LeBron's statistics indicate that he has never been as aggressive at scoring in the paint as he is this year. So for him to average his lowest free throws in 14 years when he's never been so aggressive, and he's been complaining about it all year long. And this is something that he's been banging on, and obviously he feels like it's time to ratchet up to the next level. And I think we're going to continue to hear this as we get towards the playoffs, and this could really make a difference.
Do teams feel like they have recourse when they complain to the league? Because we know then someone from the Cavaliers was assigned the job today of going and communicating with the league. Do you guys ever feel like things change?
Nah, I mean, with him, it will. He'll start, like you said, I think he'll start continually planting this bug in their ear as we get closer to the playoffs, because it's going to be a difference. You know, going from 6 to 10 free throws a game in the playoffs is going to be a difference in close games. And I think you'll see him get more calls.
And our producers were looking at some tape of James Harden playing yesterday as well, and he was getting calls on shooting plays that maybe there wasn't as much contact as the calls for LeBron wasn't getting.
That's a hard one, because right here's what he's talking about, and it's just that's more of the Kawhi Leonard effect. Is there's more, because of the hard fouls being taken out of the game, there's actually more significant injuries happening on jump shots and stuff like that. So they're trying to take that to eliminate injury.
But if you talk to people from the Rockets, they would argue that James has not gotten a fair whistle this year either. So this is a round and around and around argument.
No one gets a fair whistle.
Right.
Yeah, damn it. But it is something to look at as they continue to try to make the game more accurate and better. We got to get to Zaza Pachulia versus Russell Westbrook now.
You were there.
I was there.
Mike Wilbon was there for Zaza falling on Russell Westbrook's legs in the third quarter of the Warriors' blowout against the Thunder, prompting Russ to say that Zaza, quote, tried to hurt him. Pachulia would not comment after the game. But even Kyrie Irving took to Instagram. He had a comment. The league has to take a look at this man. That expletive is ridiculous, close quote. Look, we all know Zaza's history, right? Last season, he did get into it with Russ. You guys remember? He just sort of stood over him afterwards. Yep. Then earlier this month, Zaza nearly rolled onto Paul George's legs. Take a look at this play. So the history, it is documented here. You were at the game.
Yeah.
Was this a dirty play?
Look, I know Zaza's clumsy, plain old clumsy. His own teammates have said it. He almost got Draymond Green when he backed out of there, too, because that could have been friendly fire.
Out for the season.
Well, how about last year in the playoffs, a certain San Antonio team, Kawhi Leonard, with the foot underneath the jump shot. Look, I was watching live time Saturday night, Rachel, and I turned to Mark Spears as it happened, and I just said, did you see that? And Spears said, wait, maybe it wasn't intentional. I said, well, let's see the replay. And we watched the replay. I don't care about this. Russ gets in people's faces. I don't care about Zaza standing over him. That's just two dudes going at it, and you get what you get.
Right.
But he dived on his legs.
Right.
Now, I don't know what the intent is. I don't know him that well. I know that he has a reputation increasingly. but he dived on his legs. Mike, am I wrong? Tell me if I'm crazy.
I'm gonna take the opinion out of it because it's hard to say, hey, listen, he's trying to do that or not trying to. But his name comes up a lot, and his transgressions always seem to be against the best players, the Kawhi Leonards or Russell Westbrooks of the world. So to me, it's almost like, hey, if your name's gonna be discussed all the time, it's too much of a coincidence. Now, I don't know what he wanted out of that, but he could have prevented that easily.
How do you guys talk about it amongst themselves when that's happening over and over with a player?
To be honest with you, the best way to do it is handle it yourself. You know, to me, Russ has, he's reigning MVP. You have teammates. This should be handled.
This is a baseball issue. Players have to handle this.
Yep.
Like, I know there could be a fine or suspension. Neither one is going to be dramatic enough to stop it.
Just do
Players
it.
have to stop
Speak
this.
directly to Steven Adams. Go for it.
I got one name. I got one name. Charles Oakley.
That's right.
Okay, what happened back then? Right?
We know.
I mean, there was a guy, Michael Jordan, Ed Neely. You remember that name, Ed Neely? Ed Neely was a guy who all of a sudden appeared on the Bulls. He had a certain amount of skill, but he had a certain amount of something else.
Yeah.
And it was called an enforcer. And I hate for the NBA to go that way. But players, Mike is 100% right. Players have to settle that.
Well, I don't know.
Can't stand for it.
I'm not sure you have to get into legislating intent at all. Kind of like you say, Mike, you don't know what's in his head. I'm not sure it matters. Clearly, there's some recklessness here or some carelessness here. And to me, that's enough. You should get punished for recklessness or carelessness, even if you don't mean to do it.
Those some of the plays we're discussing, the Kawhi Leonards and the Russ one, those aren't enforcement plays. Those are borderline, almost dirty plays. Those need to be handled. Something needs to be done.
Do you think that we're going to see that, Mike?
Second that.
No, I know. Do you think we're going to see it?
I don't know how you can do it this year, Rachel, because your roster has to be set up where you have a guy who can come off and take that foul. We want to call up a guy from the G League, tying it all in.
Two ways.
Send it back down.
The new definition of two ways.
Absolutely.
One game. We are the grown-ups, and we need to do better. That sentence, by the way, rings true across a lot of our issues in this country right now, but let's focus on one in particular, the way we are failing the teenagers who we hope will one day star in the NBA. Guess who makes the money from all those AAU teams they play on? Not them. Guess who makes money, sometimes millions and millions of dollars of it, from the college basketball that they play? Not them. And please do not sing me the, oh, but they get a college education for free song. What elite players get is parked at a school for one semester. That's it, before their own coaches pull them out of class for the NCAA tournament. Then the rest of the spring is often spent training for the NBA Combine or holding private workouts for teams. And if these kids happen to get injured, yeah, too bad. That big shiny future can just disappear, and sometimes they're even left paying for their own medical expenses. And there are people out there who still want to criticize the kids in the Yahoo report from a couple days ago. You know, the ones who supposedly took a little money under the table to play at certain schools. Please, did you see the amounts of money discussed in that article? A lot of these kids are still underpaid. Of course, fixing this is going to take the work of a lot of organizations. This is such a complex web. No one entity is going to solve everything. But this is an NBA show, so let's focus on what the NBA can do, which is first admit that the current 19-year-old age limit just isn't working. And look, I know why it was put in place, to stop what had become a flood of teenagers entering the draft, hiring agents, and then not making it and being left with nothing. Teams and older players were also suffering. Franchises were required to make huge bets on basically untested players. Mike Wilbon, can you say Kwame Brown?
I did a lot.
Yeah, and locker rooms skewed younger in a way that not only chased vets out of the league sooner, it denied those new young players some of the vet mentorship that they so badly needed. So we don't need to go back to all of that. What we do need is the NBA to invest more heavily in the G League and make it a true developmental space where each NBA team has an affiliate, kids can get paid while actually learning the fundamentals of the game. And the NBA has already made steps here. They've raised salaries, instituted a couple two-way contracts, but they need to keep it going. Now, that doesn't mean go crazy. I personally do believe that while anyone working for a living has a right to get paid, they don't have a right to get paid $6 or $7 million. If G League players made, say, a couple $100,000 a year, that's still really good starting salaries for any 18-year-old in this country. And unlike with college sports, they would then be free to supplement that with endorsements. And yeah, there should still be a two-way option for the most elite players so that they can get called up to the NBA if they're ready early. And yeah, if that happens, start getting paid NBA money. But those players would be the exceptions. For most players, the G League could function more as a stepladder, a place that values and rewards them while still teaching them. It's a whole lot better than they're getting now. And as the grown-ups, It's our responsibility to figure out a way to make that happen. Now, Mike, you played 2 years at the University of Florida. Where are you on one and done, especially after all these reports the last few days?
Well, for me, I'm not a fan of the one and done. And obviously, I chose to go to school, but I had no choice but to go to school. I wasn't ready. Everyone has a different path. We're talking about a small percentage of people. I'm talking like a 0.5 of the 1% of the world that are able to do this. But they should have that choice and have that right. To me, they put that rule in place to protect them from themselves. Front offices were afraid of, having busts. But I have news for you. There's busts in the league when they go to college anyways. So to me, I played with some of the best players I've ever played with. Tracy McGrady, LeBron James, against Kobe, against KG. Those guys are Hall of Fame players. They were ready. Those are the guys that are coming out. It's not the Mike Millers of the world. Those guys are going to school, they're enjoying college, they're playing, and you never know when you're going to be ready. So it's a small percentage of people. I think you should allow those small percentages of people to make decisions based on what their family needs and the position they're in.
Mike Miller definitely enjoyed college. What about me?
I remember Mike Miller in college.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what, Rachel? The key thing Mike there said to me was option. And option is it. And we're going to have to become more sophisticated about the options. That starts with the NCAA. Why do hockey players and baseball players get to have agents, but football and basketball players don't? What is that about? And also, we're going to have to look at sort of the Major League Baseball situation where, yes, you can hire an agent. You could even go to camp. You can do all these things. But if you don't play with that NBA team, your eligibility is restored. You are still eligible to play college sports. We see this with the Olympics, right? Michael Phelps, was he not a professional? But he was allowed the amateur status, whatever the status is called, to then compete in the Olympics. We've seen this time and time again, increasingly over the last 20 years in the Olympic movement. So let's not be hypocritical about it. Let's allow people to be eligible to play, but if they're not ready to play in the NBA, you don't play. 1 year, just like Mike said, for most guys, it's not enough. The league suffers. The college product suffers. Those kids who are not ready and not accepted once they went through a camp, and it could be a special summer camp. You can return them to college. They can be in college basketball again. It's legal right now to go to dinner with an agent, but oh wait, you can't accept a dinner. He can't pay for it. So we are splitting hairs and drawing lines in places they don't need to be drawn, and the whole thing is a mockery. How many billions of dollars does Turner and CBS pay the NCAA?
Oh, well,
11 billion,
yeah.
I think the number is.
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me that some of that, even if you were just allowed to monetize your own image,
that's it.
Where they're selling your jersey, the Mike Miller jersey in the bookstore in Gainesville, he couldn't get that $400, he would have been ineligible. All of that has to stop now.
Look, don't get me started on amateurism in college sports. It's ridiculous, antiquated, and I have no idea why the NCAA is still chasing that. But for me, we're talking about the NBA and what they can do. And I do think, look, they all work in concert. I would like to see the G League beefed up, only because, yes, they do have the right to enter. And, yes, if you're a LeBron James, you could enter in the G League. And then, hey, 3 days later, you're called up to your NBA team. But for most guys, Mike, don't you think that year of development with G League coaches and getting more playing time instead of sitting on the bench?
I think it can. I think
there could be a middle clod of players who aren't the LeBrons and Tracy McGrady's, but maybe would benefit from that more.
That would be the group that would do it.
Right.
If it was just the G League, I think you'd see the guys like the Marvin Bagleys or the Michael Porter Jr., I think you'd see them go to college. I really do, and have that experience. If it's just the G League, for me, the middle guys that just don't want to go to school, don't want to play overseas, then the G League is a great option. The salary is good. You're getting used to being professional, which means showing up and doing your job all day long, getting better, and that to me would be a good fit in the G League.